Okay, good morning, everybody. From what I see, my YouTube is up and running. I'm going live right now. I'm hoping that there are some people who are going to either be joining us here shortly or you're already in the room. What I'm going to be doing, kind of to keep an eye on what is actually being seen through my webcam, as you can see my hand here, is looking at it on my cell phone so that I can actually get an idea of what you all are looking at, because you have to remember the only thing that I can see is what's on my screen. I can't actually see what's coming through the camera. So I'm going to do my very best to sort of continue where I left off last class, talking about paragraphs. And, you know, one of the funny things about this, I'm going to type in here. Hello, everyone, because I see there was somebody else in here. What I'm actually going to do is do my best to convey at least the way I think effective paragraph writing can be done, and how it can be done in a way that maybe is a little unconventional. Like I told you all before, I am not a composition trained, expert. I'm not. Yes, I've taught it for 17 years, but I think the way that I tend to tackle various topics or assignments may be a little bit different than somebody who's more classically trained in doing that. So that being said, the exercise I gave you about the $25,000 pyramid was actually not an assignment I've ever given before. And it was something that occurred to me to do. Hello, Jayla. Hope you're doing good this morning on this kind of cold, nasty morning. It actually was not a conventional, what's the word I want to use? It's not an exercise I had given before. And so I want to give you a little background, because I think it makes sense to do that. I want to give you a little background as to why I did that assignment. Okay, so I had you look at a clip on one of my last lectures of the $25,000 pyramid. So now you got to see what was really a pretty bad game show that was on long before you guys were around. I mean, that show probably went off. Man, it might have gone off the air before I was born. Sorry, I was to get my coffee in this morning. And basically what you saw was essentially the way to think about that game is what we would call word association. So that's why when I gave you the assignment, I gave you all what we would call word association almost, where I told you, okay, here's 3 words: pizza, cold, and truck. Okay, well, really those words just kind of popped into my head. But I think they were good ones to use in their own right, because one thing we have to remember is that in the English language, most words have more than one definition. If you wanted to use the word truck as a verb, to say somebody's trucking means they're really moving. Okay. Cold is another one where, cold can be an adjective, as in, boy, I'm cold. Or it can also be almost like, I guess what would be a verb, or, well, no, I guess a noun. A cold meaning like, I have a cold. Okay. And another reason that one kind of popped into my head is all this stuff on the news about the coronavirus. It popped into my head. Now, pizza is a little bit different. Pizza is a little bit concrete as far as what it is, but I wanted to see what people thought of when they thought of the word pizza. Okay. So I wanted to give you a little bit of background as to why I did that assignment, because what I wanted to see was, could you all formulate a paragraph about one topic that would be continuous, meaning would it have continuity from start to finish? And by the way, guys, I can't see who's in the room. So if you would do me the favor of just writing something in your text box just to let me know you're in the room so that I know for sure who's in here, that would be great. Jayla already did that. You don't have to write anything particular. Just write hi or I'm here or something like that, because it doesn't identify any of that to me. All I see are that there are supposedly 4 people in here right now. So I'd like to be able to know who that is. At any rate, so what originally I did last night, I went back through and I looked at your paragraphs. And for the most part, I think you guys did the assignment, but I also think there's still some lacking there as in a lot of people's examples of knowing exactly what a paragraph is and what it should do, and how to construct one that is reader friendly and it's cohesive. Caleb, good to see you. Hope you're doing good this morning. So what I really wanted to do originally, what I was writing back to people when I was giving you all feedback last night, and everybody's going to get 100 for this assignment, just so you know. As long as you did it, you're going to get 100 for it. Sorry, I'm a little snotty. The main thing that I said last night was that I was going to go back through and I was going to kind of anonymously look at different people's paragraphs in the class, and we could have a little bit of an open discussion about them. Then I realized, well, these were posted to a blog, so me going back over them anonymously really doesn't make any sense, because you all have already read each other's and you know who posted what. So it doesn't really necessarily, protect anybody's anonymity for me to go back and look at a paragraph and say, okay, here's what could have been done better, or here's what could have been done worse. I think we can just look at them and just say, okay, for example, Caleb, this part of your paragraph is good. This part maybe could use a little bit of work. Again, none of this is designed to attack anybody. What it's designed to do is to help you all improve as writers. And since you all have already seen everybody's, then I don't think there's any reason for me to go back and redact names or do anything like that, because we're a small group, and I know that that's not what I'm doing. I'm not trying to put anybody out on Front Street. It's just what we need to be able to do at the end of this exercise is walk away from it understanding a little bit more about paragraphs, paragraphing, and just in general, how to write a better paper. Because really, at the end of the day, I mean, that's going to be probably one of the bigger challenges of this virtual, communication that we have is, as you all know, I use a dry erase board a lot. I don't have a dry erase board here. And even if I did, I don't know that I would be able to film myself using it in a way that would help you. So we're kind of limited here by, again, the digital camera and what I can cover on it and what I can explain to you and give you sort of as information on Moodle to help you learn to write better paragraphs. So I'll say it one more time because I see there are a couple more people in the room. If anybody is in the room, not Jayla and not Caleb, who hasn't written over here and let me know they're in the room, please do that. So that way I can make sure that I at least know who was here and whether or not doing these things live is beneficial or not. Because again, if doing these things live, if I'm teaching to 2 or 3 people, it doesn't make sense. It just makes more sense for me to just do this on my own time, post it, and then let you look at it on your own time. I'm just kind of trying to conform with what I think the university would want us to do. But once again, everything is so up in the air that I'm just one of those people where if I feel like something is not worth our time, I don't see why we should have to do this from 9:30 to 10:45 if the class isn't showing up to do it. Okay. So that being said up front, what I want to do is let's go back, and you may have to end up clicking on your screens to make it like a full screen so you can see these things as well as you can, because this is as close as I can get with the camera without either constantly knocking into it or without it, where you can actually see the whole screen on my laptop. Okay. But I think it works pretty well. I used it last night and I watched it back and it seemed to work. So what you're going to see here now is the actual exercise I had you do. Okay. And again, I'm looking on that looks pretty good. I'm looking on my cell phone to see how much of this I can actually see. And let me do this too, really quickly. Let me. Okay, that's not a good idea. All right, let's do this. We'll just go back to where it was. Okay, so what I'll try to do is look on my cell phone and see if anybody has any questions. Please just chime in and let me know if you have a question about something I'm doing here. But what I want us to do is kind of look back at what you all did and kind of go through them and give everybody kind of a litmus marker about maybe where they were as far as paragraphs or what they did that may or may not have been the best way to go about it. Okay. So I gave you some responses of my own last night, and I'm not trying to tell you mine are perfect, but I think that they give you a good example of kind of how a paragraph could be structured from start to end. Okay. And I'll just read one example because you guys are literate. I mean, you can read this stuff. Okay. And again, let me see if I can. I want to make sure you're getting as much of a view as you can. 1 second. Sorry, because I'm delayed on my YouTube here. Okay, that's not good. All right, 1 second. Having to adjust my camera here. You know what I'm going to do? Let's just do this for a second. I'm going to take my camera out of its mount and just actually put it up here to the screen. Sorry about this. This again is some of the technical difficulties that we're going to experience as this thing goes. It's just part of the growing pain of it. Just give me a second. And like I said, my YouTube is delayed through my phone, so I'm behind what you're actually probably seeing. One second. I promise you I'll get this. The other thing is everything is kind of backwards too. The way that you move your camera actually is backwards to the way that it shows up on the screen. All right, well, let me try to put it back to my mount. Maybe that was the best way to do it. Again, like I said, this is going to be a little trial and error, guys. And I apologize for that, but it's just the way it is, unfortunately. Okay, we may have a little bit of a glare there. Let me see if I can turn my light out, but that's probably about as good as I'm going to be able to get it for right now. Anyway, again, you can look on your own, your own YouTube, or I mean your own Moodle, and see what's there. Like I said, there's going to be some trial in this, especially when your technology is limited, and mine is. So there we go. That looks pretty good. Okay, so like again, I know you're not going to be able to see everything that's in there, but you'll be able to see for the most part, I think, what you need to see. I'm trying to get it as good as I can get it here. All right, that's about as good as I'm going to be able to get it from. Okay, so what you're going to see on here is I wrote, when I think of the word pizza, the first thing I think of is Vinny. Okay. When I was growing up, there was really only one pizzeria in town that was not Pizza Hut. It was called Joe's. The cook and owner of the restaurant was named Vinny. I will always remember him not only because of his thick Italian accent, but because he was so irritable and mean with customers that I did not understand how he stayed in business. However, he made one of the best pizza pies I've ever eaten. And when I go home, I still stop by there from time to time. And he still works there. And he is still as ornery as he was the first time I went there in 1991. Okay. Basically what that is, what we would call that a skeletal paragraph. Okay. The reason I did that is simple. Right now, what I want you guys to learn is more how to frame a paragraph than I'm worried about you incorporating every single detail into a paragraph to make it so that it reads like a book. Okay. Like you guys, the first thing you need to learn to do is to write in paragraph form. And for most of you, I mean, we have 12 people on the roll, but I think we have 10 who are actually, regular class attendees. A solid, 75, 80% of you guys don't write in paragraph form. I mean, your papers have everything you've turned into me has been one paragraph. So the first thing we need to do is get you to where you're actually writing in paragraph form. So the point of this exercise was not for you to write biblically long paragraphs. That wasn't the point. And most of you, actually all of you didn't do that, which is good. What it is to do is to teach you, take a topic, write on it, and then end it, move on to the next one. Okay. Well, if you really wanted to make this into something that was going to be expansive, you could go back into that paragraph and you could add more details if you wanted to. If you wanted to make the whole paper about pizza or about Vinny, then the paragraphs that came after it would be ones about either Vinny or pizza, et cetera, because you've already established from your opening that the paper's about pizza, it's about Vinny, and potentially the way it ends is something about going home again. Okay, well, going home again is that same sort of idea that Tim O'Brien talks about in The Things They Carried. That idea about, well, you can't go home again. Well, maybe this paper would turn into that. Maybe it would go from being something about pizza to something about going back home. Again, that's the thing about writing. You never really know where it's going to lead you. And that's another reason why I want to do these exercises with you. So I'm not going to sit here and read mine in some attempt to pat myself on the back or to make you think that, I write the greatest paragraphs on earth, because that's not the point of this. The point of this was to kind of show you more what a, skeletal paragraph would look like, with a central idea that's built around, and then it sort of is very vague and comes to an end. Okay. So let's look at Caleb's. Okay. And I'm going to go back to the live streaming thing real quick. Okay. I see Jayla and Caleb are still in the room. Looks like we have 5 people in here, probably including myself. I said earlier, if you'll just shoot me a message down here, you should have a little message box down the right side of your screen. If you'll shoot me a message and let me know you're in the room, that way I can make sure not only do you get credit for being here, but I can also make sure that these lectures aren't just pointless. I'm not just talking to air here. Okay, so here was the thing about Caleb's. Caleb's paragraphs were very well, not only very well written, but they were well constructed. And the thing I also think fit really well with Caleb's, and again, this is not me trying to let me take that back. What I'm saying is I'm still trying to be critical, but I also want to make sure that I applaud you guys when you do something well. Here was the thing I found most pleasing about Caleb's was the very first example about pizza. Because what I want you guys to also understand is usually the best writing is writing that isn't predictable. And what I mean by that is not to say you need to write something that's, absolutely insane where, it doesn't make sense. But what I mean is the best writing is the kind where, okay, let's say you're writing about pizza and what you write is what pops into your head is cheese. Well, okay. I mean, it's not to say you can't write a paragraph about cheese pizza, but what it is to say is that's probably not going to grab a reader. It's not going to make a reader go, wow, that makes me want to keep reading. I mean, be honest about it. How many people, when they eat pizza, eat it without cheese? I mean, yes, there may be a small number of people who are lactose intolerant or something like that. But what I mean is there's not really a whole lot of intrigue there if you're going to build your paper around, if this was an opening paragraph. When I think of pizza, I think of cheese. Okay. Well, unless you have some crazy story about a cheese pizza, what I'm telling you is if this were an opening paragraph, that's probably not going to take you very far. But let me read Caleb's out loud just in case you guys can't see it so that you understand what I mean by this. Okay. And again, I'm not trying to embarrass anybody, whether it's me being critical of your paragraphs or complimentary of your paragraphs. Okay. What I want to do is have us improve. That's the name of the game here, having us improve. That way, whenever you get to your final research paper in here, you understand how to construct a paragraph and how to make them fit together so that you get a good grade. Then you may look back and go, well, I didn't like the way Dr. Root looked at my paragraph one time and told me that, it could be better, but man, I got a B on this final paper. So I understand why he did it. That's fine with me. I don't want people looking back and thinking I was picking on them. What I want people to think is that this exercise served a purpose. The purpose was to help you write a final paper that got you a good grade so that you never have to see my ugly mug again. Okay. So what Caleb wrote is for pizza. The first word that popped into his mind is here. Okay. And he writes, when I think of pizza, I also think of the word here. My family and I eat pizza twice a week when we go on family vacation for the summer. While I'm playing the game, my little cousins would come in the room and yell, the pizza is here. This memory came to mind because I love pizza and I love traveling. When I order pizza, I always select the delivery option so I can sit back and wait for someone to say, the pizza is here. The way that gels together is very nice. It's almost like what you've gotten is a flashback that's bringing you up to the present. The only thing, again, to be critical in here is there seems to be one part that's slightly out of place, and that is while I'm playing the game. I think maybe in your mind what you mean is like maybe while you're playing a video game or while you're doing something else. That part may be a little unclear, and you could have stood to go back and maybe make that one a little more specific to what exactly that means. But otherwise, this is like a very strong example of an opening paragraph. Because again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to reference Tim O'Brien again with the whole book about the things they carried. The things they carried, it's constantly oscillating back and forth between present and past. If Caleb were to be writing a paper and using this as his opening paragraph, the thing you may not even think about is that even though his opening paragraph begins with the idea of pizza, the way he's framed his paragraph here also could enable him to work himself into a number of other topics that would still have had a foundation in the idea of pizza. Like, for example, he and his family eats pizza twice a week when they go on vacation. Okay, where do they go on vacation? That could be the next paragraph. Okay. His cousins, explain and describe them, and then yelling the pizza is here. That could be the next paragraph. This memory came to mind because I love pizza and I love traveling. Well, where do you travel? When I order pizza, I always select the delivery option so I can sit back and wait for someone to say the pizza is here. Are you saying that in regards to the delivery man saying pizza's here? Are you saying that in regard to people you're on vacation with saying, oh, the pizza's here? What I'm getting at is Caleb left himself enough room in here by what he talked about that this could be the opening paragraph of a longer paper whose construction, oddly enough, could actually be pizza. Okay. Again, one of the reasons why I had us look at the $25,000 pyramid, not only did I want to expose you all to some absolutely horrible 1970s TV, but the other reason I wanted to do that was to show you that here's the thing. When I think of pizza, I think of Vinny. When Caleb thinks of pizza, he thinks of here. What I'm getting at is this. We don't think the same thing when we think about pizza, but that doesn't mean he can't make it relatable to a reader, even if that reader doesn't think the same thing that he does. Caleb's managed to make it relatable. He's managed to explain to you why that's what he thinks of, why it's relevant, why it works. And like I said, he could construct an entire paper. And I'm not going to say necessarily, it would have to be a long paper. But what I mean is Caleb could easily construct, you guys are the masters of the 3-5 paragraph papers. You guys, this could easily be constructed into a 3-5 if that's what I wanted you to do. Easily. That could be constructed into a 3-5. I'm going to check my YouTube real quick, see if anybody else has joined the room. Nakia, how are you doing? Good to see you. Jayla, yeah, I'm going to get to yours. I'm going to try to work my way through everybody's. The thing that you have to remember about paragraphing, and I'm glad you brought that up, is that for this particular assignment, yes, you could have used pepperoni as your first thing you think of when you think of pizza. That's fine. There was nothing wrong with what you did in doing that. What I am trying to say is that I think the problem would become if I would tell you, okay, next assignment, I want you to expand that opening paragraph into a 2-page paper. I think that's where, Jayla, you would have a problem. Because again, you have to remember, much like in high school, I know your teachers told you this, the opening is where you grab a reader. The opening is where a reader decides whether or not they want to keep reading. And again, this is not to disregard what you wrote, that you guys are learning. Okay. What I am saying though is this. If I had told you originally for this assignment, what I want is a 5-paragraph essay on pizza and what you think of when you think of pizza. Had your opening paragraph been, when I think of pizza, I think of pepperoni, I probably would have been like, well, can you really write me 5 paragraphs that's going to stay focused on pepperoni? And that's why you want to think about when you write paragraphs, how you're going to combine them together. Because if you just write an opening paragraph about pepperoni and then you go off the track about something else because you can't say anything more about pepperoni, then that's when your paper is no longer cohesive. And that becomes an issue. A lot of you guys, I notice you do that. Unfortunately, most of you don't break your papers off into paragraphs, But what I mean is, in part of a paragraph, you're talking about pepperoni, and then suddenly you're talking about, I don't know, let's just say, for instance, a Domino's pizza commercial, and about how, let's be honest, like if you've watched TV, this latest round of Domino's pizza commercials, they're pretty bad. Okay. What would pepperoni on your pizza have to do with a Domino's pizza commercial? Not really anything. And that's what happens when you write about something and it's limited. It doesn't give you a whole lot of room to go anywhere with it. Okay. So like Caleb's, for example, this is a really good paragraph. And Caleb, I want to commend you in front of the class. I know you guys probably think, wow, Dr. Root is overly critical. Well, it's to try to help you guys is why I'm critical. Caleb, what you did pretty much with all of yours was good. But let me address one thing that I sent you up. I actually wrote a message down here about, because I do want to be critical of people. I do want to be critical of your work. For cold, Caleb wrote weather. Now, he wrote, when I think of the word cold, the word sick comes to mind. One of my biggest pet peeves is being outside when it's extremely cold, because that's typically when I get sick. Also, when the weather gets cold, that's when flu season comes around and everyone starts getting sick. After that, people tend to get careless and not wash their hands and not cover their mouths when coughing or sneezing. With that being said, when the weather gets cold and people start getting sick, it becomes contagious and hard to prevent. Okay, so really quickly, I'm going to click back onto the live streaming part. Does anybody have a comment about what's wrong with that paragraph that Caleb wrote? And Caleb, I'm excluding you because you probably read my comments already. What's wrong with that paragraph? Remember, one of the things I'm trying to get you all to do is think about focus. Think about keying in on something and making something cohesive. Okay. And I'll give you a hint. Look at what Caleb says he thinks about when he thinks about the word cold, and then go back and look at the paragraph. And I'm going to give you a little time to type this in here. By the way, I see 6 people are in here. Please let me know that you're in the room. It's good to see 6 people in here. I taught a class yesterday to 2 people. And let me tell you something. Dr. Root is not going to keep doing that. Dr. Root will just make videos on his own time and post them on his own time and let people look at them on their own time. Because there's no point in teaching to 2 people. But I'm glad to see that. I'm assuming that 6 people I see in here, one of them is probably me. So 5 people, that's pretty close to our average turnout. As long as we keep that going, guys, if you want to do this at 9:30, I'm down to do it at 9:30 every morning. I'm up long before 9:30. I'm an old man. Okay, Jayla, is it the way he used 6 so much? You're getting close. And you know one thing about you, Jayla? Have a little confidence. Don't ask me in the form of a question. State it. I always tell you that. You are sharp. You are a smart young lady. Come out and say it with some conviction. What do you think is wrong with that paragraph? And I'm going to give you a hint. You're very close. It has to do with focus. And then I'm going to give you all about another 30 seconds. And then Caleb, if you're still in here, because I can't see who's in here actively. It looks like you are. I'm going to let you. Okay. Caleb, go a step further with that since people can see. What do you mean by you forgot to change the word before you change the paragraph? Because being self-aware as a writer is extremely important. And I'm going to get to that too as I work through another person's paragraphs. I'm going to try to hit on everybody's paragraphs because everybody in here deserves attention on what they're doing right and what they're doing wrong. And if you're doing something wrong, do not feel bad if I bring it to your attention. That is not what I'm trying to do. What I'm trying to do is make you understand what it is you're doing wrong and what you can do to fix it. It's a good thing you guys can't see me drink coffee. I am a sloppy coffee drinker. Getting all over my chin. Okay. Do you want to say anything more, Caleb, about that? Jayla, thank you. With your conviction, and I love it. You hear my applause? Thank you. Be, what's the word? Be confident. Have that Claflin confidence. I know we can't really show our Claflin confidence behind the computer screen, can we? Yes, Caleb, exactly. I see the arrow going up. That's exactly where the issue was. And if you looked at my response last night, Caleb, I wrote one back to you. I wrote it down here. The only thing I think maybe you could have done better or differently was with your second response, as the word that actually seemed to pop into your head was cold instead of weather. But overall, or I didn't mean cold, I meant sick. Sorry. I was having to go through all kinds of work yesterday. But overall, they're great answers. Tomorrow when I go live, I plan to use yours as an example of what I want students to understand. Okay, here was the problem. Let's say, Caleb, you opened up your paragraph with a topic sentence that said, when I think of cold, I think of weather. Okay, let's think about that. And again, just what Jayla said. I'm going to go back to the live streaming thing. Jayla, you wrote on here, his word was weather, I think, but he talked about sick. Remember that your topic sentence is the first sentence of a paragraph. What that means is basically every sentence that comes after that, it should be doing something to kind of bolster or contribute to that idea, okay? Ideally. Now, it doesn't have to be like an immediate relation, but it should fit, okay? Caleb, the problem with what you had here was not so much what you have in the paragraph, it's what you said you think of when you think of cold. So had your opening sentence, your topic sentence been, well, when I think of cold, I think about the weather. Okay, let's think about how the rest of your paragraph would have sounded. When I think about cold, I think about the weather. When I think of the word cold, the word sick comes to mind. One of my biggest pet peeves is being outside when it's extremely cold because that's when I get sick. Also, when the weather gets cold, that's when flu season comes around and everyone starts getting sick. After that, people tend to get careless and not wash their hands and not cover their mouths when coughing or sneezing. With that being said, when the weather gets cold and people start getting sick, it becomes contagious and hard to prevent. Okay, so for one thing, if your topic sentence had to do with your association of the word weather with cold, this paragraph doesn't fit. The second thing is, even with your topic sentence being what it is, some of this stuff is a little bit non sequitur, okay? Non sequitur is a word I've used in class before. I don't expect you all to remember it. Non sequitur, I wonder if I can pull up Microsoft Word really fast and type it in. Sorry, this is a relatively new laptop. I actually am really not used to using this. My mom got me this because my old laptop was just about to die. Okay, I'm trying to make this thing blow up here, and it's not. All right. I'll just blow up the font then, or zoom it up. Sorry if I bump my camera here, but it's very hard for me to position everything. Okay. I realized that took me a second to type, but my computer is also at a really cockeyed angle to the way that I'm sitting. I can assure you guys I'm not like, blues drunk or something like that. It's just I can't reach the keys. Non sequitur means, and I'll move my camera a little bit here. Hopefully I get it in there because I can see that it's not on my cell. Non sequitur does not follow. Okay. What that means is Caleb, some of what you had here, I don't think even if your paragraph was written the way it is, take this part out. take away the cold and the weather part, I think some of this stuff is not exactly in sequence. When I think of the word cold, the word sick comes to mind. One of my biggest pet peeves is being outside when it's extremely cold, because that's when I get sick. See, what I mean is, if this were your topic sentence, I'm not sure that some of these other things fit. Like, it almost seems like you get off track. Also, and I'll tell you one other thing too, really quickly, about writing paragraphs. And this is what your next assignment is about. If you've looked on Moodle, you've seen what your next assignment is about. It's about transitioning. Also is what's known as a linking word. Linking words are not good transitions. Linking words make things feel tacked on. They make them feel like a list. They make them feel unimportant. So what you've done is, instead of saying something like furthermore or additionally or moreover or from my own experience, when the weather gets cold, that's when flu season comes around and everyone starts getting sick. Okay, again, like, I don't know that that sentence really fits in with what you have here, okay? And so the fact that it begins with also, that sometimes tends to cue people into, okay, this is not going to be a fit because it isn't transitioned into well. So it's, the person is searching for something. Okay. And I would argue, like, again, like, now you almost start sounding like what we're seeing on the news every day. After that, people tend to get careless and not wash their hands and not cover their mouths. Well, now it sounds like what you're doing is, you're not talking about you getting sick. You're not talking about the weather getting cold. Now you're just talking about people in general and human nature, about how people don't use good hygiene. So if I'm reading this paragraph, even though your writing is very good, I mean, Caleb, like, literally, as far as, and I've told you this already, and yes, I'm putting you out on Front Street. As far as your actual composition goes, there's no reason for you to be in a 102 class. In fact, a lot of you that are in that boat. You don't need the help with your writing in the sense of you being able to string sentences together. What a lot of you guys lack are fundamental knowledge of things that somewhere along the way someone neglected to teach you guys. And that's why I want to make sure I reiterate the fact that you all don't really, a lot of you don't really know how to write in paragraphs. That's not your fault. Along the way, somebody did not teach you that. Somebody just had you write stuff, and as long as whatever you wrote was okay, and it was, it wasn't terribly written, and I guess it probably stuck to a topic, they went ahead and gave you a grade and floated you by. You can't write papers that are one paragraph. I know I'm repeating myself a lot, but I want to drive that idea home to you. It doesn't work. Your ideas, there's no way for a reader to understand where one idea finishes and another one starts, which is another reason why I had you do this exercise. These words are completely unrelated. Now, if I had wanted to make it harder on you, and that would have been pointless to do it at that stage, I would have taken 3 related words and said, okay, what I want you to do is write the first thing you think about these 3 related words. Then I want you to turn it into a paper. No, I don't work that way. The way we're going to do it is, we're going to start out slow. We're going to crawl before we walk. We're going to walk before we jog, and we're going to jog before we run. And I'm hoping that even though we're doing this virtually, by the end of the term, I'm hoping that we're running. Okay. I don't want us to be standing in place. That's not my goal. Okay. So Caleb, I'm going to move on from yours, and I'm going to go to Jayla's. Now, Jayla, we're just going to go ahead and we're going to look at your first example and make sure. Okay. Nobody said anything fresh. All right. So when Jayla wrote about pizza, the first thing she wrote that she thought about was pepperoni. Okay. So in the thoughts of pizza, pepperoni comes to mind due to over the years of that being the first thing people like of when it comes to eating pizza. To me, is the easiest food to put on a pizza that a lot of people like. There are some people that don't like pepperonis on their pizza, as well as people who don't even eat pizza. I don't mind pepperonis on my pizza, but there are times when I don't like pizza at all. Pepperonis dominates as the most popular topping on a pizza. Okay, now first things first. Let's go back to the peanut gallery, which is you guys. What could be done better with Jayla's paragraph? And Jayla, you're allowed to chime in here too. And incidentally, while I wait really quickly, I just saw the FedEx man come down my driveway. I'm going to run and get a package really quick. You guys type. All right, nothing beats walking out in the rain. Okay, so nobody has any thoughts about that? Come on, guys, we're getting into the home stretch here. We only have about 25 minutes of class left. Anything, any observations about this paragraph? Okay, Caleb, can you elaborate on that? Because I would agree with you. And again, Jayla, please take this as constructive criticism. Compositionally, there were some things with the paragraph that could have been done better. And by the way, I want to take a moment and tell y'all I appreciate y'all being here. It makes my job a lot more interesting. Sure, Caleb. It makes my job a lot more interesting to actually have people I'm teaching to instead of yesterday where, I had basically nothing. And again, I'm trying to move my computer while you all are looking to make this more readable. Okay, that didn't really help. It doesn't look like. Let me turn my light back on real quick and see if that helps. Because I'm trying to get as much of the screen in here as I can, guys. But like I said, you have to understand, I'm at the limit. I'm limited by my own technology here too. I just don't have. It looks like there's more of a glare on there now. Turn it back off. I don't know if a backlight will help any. Okay. For example, when you started the second sentence, I think you meant to say, to me, this is. Okay. So, like I said, so we can try to be efficient here. Yes, Caleb, what you're looking at, and I can see why, because your composition is very strong. You're looking more at what Jayla did as far as the actual composition of the paragraph itself. And there are some moments in here where the writing is a little bit scattered, but the thing that I do think Jayla does well, at least for that first probably, here's my opinion. Jayla's got one sentence in here that's problematic, particularly. And again, I don't want to waste our time because I want to make sure we get through the ones that were posted, because not everybody posted one. Jayla, to me, your paragraph hits a little bit of a wall when you get to that third sentence. There are some people that don't like pepperonis on their pizza, as well as people who don't even eat pizza. For one, remember, pepperoni is already plural, so pepperonis isn't actually a word. But the thing that I think you hit the wall with here again is that you have to remember, let's look at our first, for example, two sentences here. And this is also kind of weirdly worded, in the thoughts of pizza. I think all you need to say is, when I think of pizza, pepperoni comes to mind over the years, and that's a little bit strange, like due to over the years. I think I would just say pepperoni comes to mind, being that it is, for you anyway, the first thing people think of when it comes to eating pizza. To me, it is the easiest food to put on a pizza that a lot of people like. Then suddenly you go, there are some people that don't like pepperonis on their pizza, as well as people who don't even eat pizza. So as I read that, what I tend to think of again is this nice big word that we were looking at earlier. I'm trying to shrink it down now so that it fits in and I don't have to move the camera again. Okay. Again, like, see if that helps any, or if that moves it out of the screen. I'm trying to do this off my cell phone too, guys. So like I said, this is going to be a learning process for all of us. Okay. Please don't expect me to be Mr. Technology right off the bat with all this stuff, because I never use webcams. I never have a reason to do that. So, this is new. Again, like non sequitur, it doesn't follow. Okay. So again, if you look at that third sentence, what you're going to see is it doesn't really fit sequentially in with what you have here. You've talked about pepperoni comes to mind because it's the first thing people think of when eating pizza. It's the easiest thing to put on there that people like. And then all of a sudden you go, but there are people that don't like pepperoni on their pizza, as well as people who don't even eat it. See, here's where I would stand on this. I would just scrap that sentence, because that sentence, it becomes confusing, jarring, and or distracting to somebody who's reading this. Well, if that's the case, then why include that there? Now, is that to say if you were writing a longer paper, you couldn't include that somewhere else? Absolutely you could. But think of this as an opening paragraph of a pizza. Think of that as the opening paragraph of a paper. Does that sentence work? And that's not a rhetorical question. That's me asking everybody in the room. And I'm going back to the chat here. Does that room, boy, I'm struggling. Does that sentence work there? And I'm not asking you to say yes because I say it doesn't. What I mean is, if it doesn't work, why doesn't it work? If it does work, explain to me why it works. Maybe you think it works. Maybe you can convince me that sentence fits there. What I'm asking for again is, so that I'm not just talking here. What do you think of when you read that sentence? What does it do to the paragraph? And again, I think we've got some other people in the room. Please acknowledge that you're here so that I know that you're here. Even if you don't chime in anything, it's not going to make me feel, bad or upset towards you that you don't post anything. Just let me know that you're in the room so that I know you were here. I've been on enough conference calls to know the old school move of turning this thing on and then leaving the room and doing something else. Okay. I've done it before myself. Okay. Maybe I'll let you chew on that for a minute. There's one other thing that I want to also touch on. There's also one other thing that I want to touch on with it. Okay. One other thing, Jayla, that you've done in your opening paragraph here, that's something that, for this assignment, it's not important, but for when you write like a research paper, it will become important. You have a lot of what are called logical fallacies in here. A logical fallacy, basically, again, I'll go back to my little term board here. Okay. A logical fallacy, something that may appear to be true. And again, I'm trying to put this where you can see it. There we go. Now it blew up. But there's actually no way to prove its veracity. Okay. Veracity just means truth. Okay. What I'm getting at is a logical fallacy is something where, like, again, let's take the word pizza. Okay. Most people like pizza, right? If I were to say everybody loves pizza, that's a logical fallacy. Okay. Because, or what we would probably call also akin to being overstatement or hyperbole. Why is it that? Well, very simply put, you can't prove it. You can't prove that everybody loves pizza. There's 6 billion people on this planet. Well, I guess with the coronavirus, probably less than that now, but there's 6 billion people on this planet. Unless you can go around and talk to every single one of those 6 billion people and confirm that they love pizza, guess what? That's a logical fallacy. Okay. So, Jayla, one of the things that you put in here is it's the first thing people think of when it comes to eating pizza. Well, maybe not. To me, it is the easiest food to put on a pizza that a lot of people like. Okay. Now, that's not as much of a logical fallacy. Okay. Then you put pepperoni dominates as the most popular topping on a pizza. Now, that's probably true. I would say that's probably true. But if you were going to write a paper on that, you'd need to cite where you got that data from, because there may be people who go, well, cheese is a topping technically. And let's face it, like, there are a lot of people who will eat a cheese pizza and not put pepperoni on there. Okay. So again, like, that would need to be something you distinguished right off the bat. Okay. All right. Nobody's added anything there. Let's move on. Okay. Taya, I don't know if you're in the room or not. But I'm going to see which one of these I would read. Okay. For example, let's go truck. Taya says G-Wagon. My dream truck is a 2020 Mercedes-Benz G-Class. I plan to get this style truck after graduation. They are so classy, sleek, and yet sporty. Cars are a little small for me. When driving, I like to sit up high rather than straight ahead. These trucks are very expensive, but I definitely plan to be financially stable before the completion of my 4 years. Okay, so let's go back to you guys streaming. Is there anything in particular you would comment on about that paragraph? Anybody in the room? Good, bad, other. Observations. I used to have a teacher in high school who would end every class by saying, observations, statements, comments, and or opinions. Do you all have any of those things? Okay. Hopefully y'all are typing there. If not, you're just thinking about it. Again, I only have another about 15 minutes. Here's what I notice about this paragraph that to me becomes problematic. Taya talks about her topic sentence is fine. The dream truck is the Mercedes-Benz G-Class. Okay. Moving on. I plan to get this style of truck after graduation. They are so classy, sleek, yet sporty. Cars are a little small for me. When driving, I like to sit up high rather than straight ahead. These trucks are very expensive, but I definitely plan to be financially stable before the completion of my 4 years. Okay. Jayla and Caleb is saying it sounded good. She made it relatable. Okay. I don't have any argument with that. I would agree with that. Here's where the problem I think would come in again, as somebody who teaches English and is trying to get you all to master fundamentals. And if, again, at the end of this, which will be in a couple minutes, I'm going to explain to you your next assignment, which is going to deal precisely with what I'm going to talk about with Taya's paragraph. The sentences aren't organized in the order they would need to be in to make this the most effective paragraph it could be. If you notice, okay, fine opening, that's the dream truck. I plan to get it after graduation. Then we have the truck that's described. Then we have why she likes it. Then we have that they're expensive, but she plans to be stable before the completion of 4 years. Now, my 4 years, what she should have also added was my 4 years of college. Okay. But here's where I would say the gripe comes in for me. I plan to get this style of truck after graduation. Here's sentence 3, sentence 4, sentence 5. Don't you think that sentence 2, I plan to get this style of truck after graduation, and these trucks are very expensive, but I definitely plan to be financially stable before the completion of my 4 years. Don't you think that these two sentences need to be together or need to be in closer proximity? Because it's almost like this is interrupted by the description of the vehicle. It seems to me like probably what would be a more effective way to construct it would be describe the vehicle and why you like it first, then explain you plan to get it when you have the money. What do you all think? Again, these are simple little things that, believe it or not, I mean, they have a big impact on your writing. You know, I think a lot of this, what happens is people tend to write in like a stream of consciousness style. What that means is they put down their thoughts as the thoughts pop into their head, and that's fine. That's fine to do. But what you need to do once you've done that is go back and make sure that those things are ordered in a way that makes sense. Are they the most effective way to communicate your point? Do they represent a logical, fluid order of things? And if they don't, then you need to make them do that. Okay? So again, I'm going to move on because we're running out of time. Okay. I may not get to yours, Christopher. Shaquem, I want to actually, you know what? Shaquem's were pretty short. I actually think Christopher's the one I want to okay, Christopher, yours is the one I wanted to look at. Okay, so Christopher, what I'm going to actually do with yours is look at all three of them. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to read them out loud. I'm going to blow it up here, but I'm going to read them out loud. And again, I know my camera is not the most effective thing here, but okay. So Christopher writes, and again, you guys can go back and look at this stuff. So it's not like you're missing anything. Okay. I'm trying to get my camera position right. Okay, and it's not. Let's see if that's any better. Okay, that's where I'm going to stop anyway, trying to get the camera be adjusted right for right now. Okay, so when I think of the word pizza, I think of the word pizzeria. I think of this particular word because this is where pizza is sold. I also choose the word pizzeria because pizza is in the actual word. And the third reason why I chose this word is because pizza originated is pizzerias in Italy. Okay, so we know there's some composition problems there. Okay, cold. When I think of the word cold, I also think of the word ice. I say this because ice is very cold. Another reason why is because Antarctica is cold and it has a lot of ice. And the third reason why I chose the word ice is because we keep ice in the freezer and the freezer is cold. When I think of the word truck, I also think of the word car. I say this because they are both vehicles. Another reason is because they both run on gasoline. And the third reason is because I have both in my front yard. Okay. Going back to you guys, look at all three of those. Read all three of those paragraphs. Take a minute and I'm going to give you all a minute or two to write a response to this because I want you to, and I want that to be where we wrap up, about looking at Christopher's paragraphs in unison. Look at all three of them and think about something that you should be able to notice about them, okay? And I'm going to give you 2 or 3 minutes to do that. All right, go on, guys. Okay, Caleb, that's true. The sentences are very short and lacks detail. Let's really put on our observation caps for the last minute or two of class. Look at all three of those paragraphs. I'm going to kind of give it away to you here. Look at all three of those paragraphs. And I'm going to give you a hint. Okay? Think of the word structure. Does that give you a hint as to what may be problematic about these? And again, like I said, I know the camera